let me take the example of Movu. So we had a bad moving experience. I saw that this doesn't make sense, in my opinion. There's a problem that can be solved, right? There's then it's called it an underserved market. Yeah, you can call it whatever you want, but I think that's probably it. So we decided, okay, you can digitalize this process, and it took us probably 2 weeks to set up just a super easy landing page where you can put in your phone number, your email address, and your name. And then we would call up the first 50 people that signed up. Well, we had to spend a bit of money on Google Ads, for example. We would call them, get their inventory, call the moving companies, get 5 quotes via email, send those 5 quotes to the people via email, call them again, see if they would be willing to book it, and then realized after 2 weeks, okay, out of those 50, 10 had booked. So probably there's a certain viability to this, right? That was really our first iteration, our first prototype. And not sure if it was 2 weeks, maybe it was 3 weeks, but it was before the month had ended. We knew, okay, we're going to build this now, right? And I think that's the beauty of software. You can test it extremely quickly if you're doing it well, and if you're not shy of getting your hands dirty, not in the Jose way, but in the software way, or in the website way, or in the calling way. And so from that side, that was how we went about it at Movu, really structured. Holycode was a different story, because Holycode in the end is a software development agency company. You don't need to prove that this is a business that works, because there's a lot of companies out there that do. It's not something completely new. It was more that we were just focusing on the startup sector. That was basically our niche. And I think it took us 4 years before we really started looking into, what are the needs that we're serving for clients? What's the big vision that we want to have with this company? It was just more of an organically growing thing, until we at some point said, okay, now we need to look at this from a more strategic perspective. So yeah, but that was an agency business, and I think agency businesses are different to product businesses. So I would focus more on the product side.
I mean, there is, apart from obviously looking at market shares, and I mean, we looked at the e-com shares and everything like that, but we also did a Kickstarter campaign, actually. So with that, you actually have some validation of the demand, that there is an interest for your product before you even start to produce. For us, the reason to do a Kickstarter campaign was not actually for funding per se. It was more to see the market response, to see what were people reacting to. It also, based on that, we changed our strategy somewhat. We realized also that we were perceived to be more exclusive than we didn't actually started out wanting to be a kind of a luxury brand, but we realized we needed to have some of our packaging, for example, go up a notch on the luxurious level, because people perceived it as a more high premium brand. So in that sense, you can see, but of course, a Kickstarter audience doesn't mean that anyone else wants to buy it at full price, but it's the same as if you start a web page, doesn't mean that anyone else actually would pay for anything that is actually happening on the page afterwards.
I do think that it's harder to test the demand than with software, but at Yamo we also did not Kickstarter, but We Make It, which is the Swiss version of Kickstarter. We made a We Make It campaign, and we had 6,000 products sold through the We Make It campaign in Switzerland alone, so that was good enough. Today, maybe crowdfunding is not that much of a thing anymore. So it turns a little bit harder, but I do know one physical product, like a food company. They just put a web page out there that looked decent, and they did some ad, and they checked how many people actually order. And then the hard part was to send them an email, listen, the order will only come in about half a year, but thanks a lot for validating our product. And that's how you can still software test the product, and then maybe give them a hefty discount, or send the product for free because they ordered the product. But like this, you can there are ways that you can still test demand without actually developing the whole product for 1 year and buying packaging. And you just need to be creative how to come up with solutions.
And Dennis summarized it really well, the demand and the validity points, right? Also in the lean startup, they're talking about growth hypothesis and value hypothesis, actually the other way around. And I think the demand and validity are both part of the value hypothesis at first. And also what Jose now described, Clank, for example, is another company where I invested. That came about the same way, right? They were just testing out different landing pages for different use cases and different problems. And then they figured out, wait, so the sign-up costs for families that want to do something for their future kids' banking, whatever it was, is $1.50. Are you kidding me? And then they started creating out of this, they started creating Clank. So there's different ways that you can go about figuring out what sort of demand and what sort of problem you want to solve. But in the end, it always involves having actual customer data. You cannot do it by yourself. You cannot do it on a blackboard or a whiteboard or whatever. You need to either lowest version, have interviews with clients, or if possible, build something they can test, or show them something, or give them something to taste and eat. As long as it's only you in your head with your closest circle, you're not going to get anywhere, right? So you need to get out and get actual customer feedback as early as possible. I think that's the same case in any industry.